Travis Wayne Goodsell. So we get caught up on my New Testament lessons for you. I have never been able to go the whole year with any of the lessons for Sunday school. I'm able to get a month, maybe 2 months in, and then the church attacks, and I'm not able to go on further. Likewise, it began this year in the same process. As I was doing them early, knowing in advance that I would be attacked, and sure enough, I was attacked. But I'm free, for the moment at least, and I'm able to continue on, and today we get caught up with today's Sunday school lesson, which is Matthew 8, Mark 2 through 4, and Luke 7. And so, again, as in all of these videos that are on the playlist for the New Testament Sunday School year 2023, it's necessary to remind you that these Gospels were not Gospels. They were culturally appropriated by Christians and replaced the Jews. These were Jewish literature. These are Jewish prophecies of the latter days, of their Christ. His name is not Jesus. They are writing these particular stories with the name of Jesus as a symbol, because the name means Yah, the Hebrew God of salvation. And so Jeremiah chapter 23 talks about a descendant of King David who is a man like Moses who will save the Jews in the latter days. And that's where Jesus comes from. That prophecy. And the prophecy of the mortal human being of the Jewish Christ comes from Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19. And so Joseph Smith likewise says, our Christ is him. In Joseph Smith history, which is the visionary accounts, verse 40. And so notice that both the personages in the first vision and Nephi, not Moroni, in the second vision are described as Emmanuel, the Egyptian sun god at noonday. And so Joseph Smith goes on to expand that instead of Jesus, instead of the Christian Emmanuel, or the Jewish Emmanuel, we are, as Mormons, supposed to be looking for a Mormon from the great and abominable church to save Mormons from the great and abominable church. He is our Christ. His name is Emmanuel, Sun God. And so all the prophecies of the Bible, according to Joseph Smith, are about him. And so likewise, this lesson and all these lessons are about the Mormon. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is founded by Brigham, though he claims Joseph is the founder, he replaced Joseph Smith and his religion and his scriptures and his Christ, exactly as Constantine did to the Jews with Christianity. 325 CE. And so, with that understood, this is the miracle lesson. And when you start thinking in terms of Christianity, you're thinking that miracles are possible. Supernatural witchcraft. Jesus can do it. He can do anything. No. There's Jewish interpretation that is necessary here. And when you understand the Jewish version of it, you realize, oh, it's symbolic. Well, that's boring. And so the lesson manual, of course, teaches the exciting stuff, the supernatural events of witchcraft that none of the prophets do from Brigham Young on. Nope. But by turning Joseph's visions into literal history, even with the actual history of Joseph Smith and his rock and a hat and getting arrested for glass looking, makes it a far more exciting religion, even though none of the prophets since Joseph Smith are doing any of that. Why is that? Oh, we're not like Joseph's church anymore, but he's our founder. Miracles ceased with Joseph Smith. Oh, hilarious. And if you don't know your Joseph Smith history visions account, you did not catch that. It has to do with the Methodist preacher. Alright, so miracles occur according to God's will. Yeah, isn't that convenient? And our faith in who? Jesus! Oh, dear God. And so, Jesus Christ has power to bring peace in the midst of life's storms. Yeah, Nelson keeps pushing this, doesn't he? Jesus has power. Believe in Jesus and all your problems are solved. Yeah, and then one final one that they only want to point out for you is, as we are forgiven by paying a full tithe and have to keep repenting with a full tithe for the rest of our life, our sins, our love for the Savior deepens. Really? Is that what happens when we pay a full tithe? Our love increases for Jesus, the one holding our families who are dead hostage. Family Discovery Day. Have you not been watching my videos? Tithing is the ransom price, the ransom debt we owe to Jesus for his atonement of us. It's not free, not in the Mormon doctrine. And in order to save our families, we've got to pay their ransom too. Tithing. It's not just for you. Alright, so we need to make sure that we keep that up so I can put the right section or passages on the thumbnail. And refer to the scriptures as we go over them to correct the information from the Bible or from the manual. So I got the new contact in, so I'm still trying to adjust to the new eye. Samson has his new left eye in. He's ready for the conquering of the Philistines. You did catch on apocalyptic literature, the Jews, latter days, prophecies, symbolisms, type and shadows. Everything, guys. Do not treat them as literal history. And so, the Mormon comes down from the mountain. Great multitudes followed him. Really? I don't see that happening. Mormons are still in denial. You're not Jesus. We want Jesus. Who are you? The Jewish Christ? Get out of here. Stone him. Yeah. So the mountain refers to the top of the mountain, Utah. This is where his ministry is during all this time. He is born, which starts the latter days, 2017. He is in Utah. Judah, phonetically the same. And he starts his ministry to save Mormons, free them from the great and abominable church, whose headquarters is in Utah. with Caiaphas as the high priest of the church. Remember, not literal history. And so this time it's lepers with disease, and the manner in which he cleans them is by touching. He put forth his hand, touched them, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. This corresponds with Moses. And wouldn't you know it, they then talk about Moses. Jesus said unto him, see that thou tell no man, but go thy way, show thyself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded. That's from the law of Moses. The requirements for leprosy and being cleansed. You can show yourself to the priest so that you can be worthy for a testimony unto them. And this was a problem back then, leprosy, but it's, again, symbolic. And so it has to do with repentance, which, again, I have to keep repeating because you're not following me. You're not hearkening. Repent is an incorrect translation from the original Greek word, which means change your mind. Repentance is a second time, poine, physical pain, suffering. And so it's a second physical pain or suffering. That is not the correct translation of change your mind. No pain needs to be involved. My burden is easy, my yoke is light. You are not yoked to Jesus. That is not a correct translation. It's so blatantly obvious who the false church is and who the false prophet is, prophesied for the latter days. And Mormons just let it go right over their head, right under their legs, in one ear, out the other. They don't get a clue. And it's sad because Mormons are the butt of many jokes now because of their ignorance and their purposeful blindness and spiritual witness bubbles. You become the joke. You're not a peculiar people. You're like, oh my God, you're crazy. Cray-cray, I guess is what they call it now. Mormons are literally cray-cray because you refuse to learn. All of this stuff you could have learned, but they give you the manuals, and the teacher has to read the manual. The teacher can't teach what they're supposed to teach, which is by the Spirit. They have to read the manual, and so you don't get taught other than what the church wants you to learn. And then you blame me and get angry at me and put a thumbs down. An extra person, beyond the one who normally puts a thumbs down on every video, an extra person came and put a thumbs down on yesterday's New Testament video. It's like Mormons purposely want to be bad. Why is that, Mormons? Why are you the bad guys? Why do you want to be the bad guys? Why do you not care to tell the truth? Why do you not care to search for the truth? Why is that? Why? Why will you not be saved? Why? And so this is all about an inward person being talked about as leprosy for the outward body. And having a belief in the true Christ changes your mind and heals you, saves you. Thus, Yah saves. And according to the law of Moses, because he's the man like Moses. See how they're wording this? See how they're doing their story? Now you can write your own prophecies. Okay, so then he goes to Capernaum, and a centurion, by your command. Awesome reboot with Caprica. And so, sick with a palsy. So it's the same kind of thing. I will come and heal him. Cranberry juice is awesome. Knowing and being capable of buying cranberry juice in my freedom, yeah, I'm seeing results already. It has purged my inward sides, and I am healed. Now we just got to get running to fix that. So, many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. I have not found great faith, no, not in Israel. You guys suck. No, it's not found so great faith. They actually believed and allowed themselves to change their mind. And so, yeah, those who have caught on and do believe, yeah, I have not found so great faith among the Mormons. It's amazing when you change your mind. And so, kingdom of heaven is often a dualism, because the kingdom of heaven is Osiris from the Egyptians, who was murdered by his brother, whose kingdom on earth needs to be restored by his son Horus, so that you have the heaven on, or kingdom of heaven and kingdom of earth restored and becoming one. Star of David, male and female, Adam and Eve, Nut and Geb. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast into outer darkness. Sorry, Mormons. Jesus said it, not me. You're going to be weeping and using sarcasm. If you're unfamiliar with what sarcasm is, you've missed my whole dialogue. And Jesus said unto the centurion, by your command, go thy way. Okay. And the servant was healed, because he believed. He changed his mind. And Mormons who did not change their mind go to outer darkness. Yay! Okay, now Jesus comes to the seer's house. In Egyptian, the Egyptian word for seer, the two eyes of Horus, in the Egyptian character form, is pronounced Peter. I wanted them to put it in the footnotes. They refused. You'd think that showing Joseph Smith as a true prophet and translator would be something the church would be excited about. Nope. They want nothing to do with Joseph. He and his wife's mother laid sick of a fever. They're sick of Peter. Sick and tired. And so again, change your mind. So you notice it's not Peter who's sick. It's his wife and mother-in-law. Change your mind. Possessed with devils. Change your mind. You see the pattern here? Cast out spirits. And so the prophecy of Isaiah in the Greek form, translated into English, himself took our infirmities and bare our sicknesses. Do they refer to the Isaiah passages? No, they don't. Guys, come on. They at least did it for us, didn't they? Matthew 8:17. Let's take a gander to see if the church had put in my... Because I put it in. I know I did. Espagnol. Nuevo. Alright, and so what was it again? 8? 8:16. Okay. Mateo 8:16. Endemoniados? That doesn't look like Isaiah. Pedro. Filos Dominos. Oh, there's Isaiah. Okay, so it's 17. El mismo. They kept it in. Yes! That was me. I did that. Isaiah 53:4. Da 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 da. So yeah, I have had an influence, and I have fixed the error. I rule. Mormons drool. Alrighty. Alright, so now when Jesus saw the great multitudes about him, he gave commandment to depart unto the other side. And a scribe. And in the last lesson I pointed out scribes copy scripture onto other papyri. That's all they do. That's their job as a scribe. And so they only have memorization knowledge of things. You know, like Mormons. Only memorization knowledge of things. And Jesus, the Mormon, Christ of the latter days, who's Mormon, will have knowledge of how to learn from scriptures. He doesn't memorize. And so he says, Master, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. Good for you, Mormon. Are you aware that the Church of Jesus Christ of Pharisees is not true? And he said unto him, Foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, Son of Man have nowhere to lay his head. He's homeless. And another of the disciples said unto him, Suffer me first to go and bury my father. Jesus said unto him, Follow me, and let the dead bury their dead. Okay, so this has nothing to do with giving Jesus a bed. But in the context of the latter days, the death sign is the end of the latter days and the start of the millennial reign of peace, when the Christ will reign over the fallen Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the great and abominable church. And so the concept of not actually dying and being buried in the tomb is involved here, because it's symbolic of the latter days. The death, burial, resurrection, ascension all has to do with a sign in heaven. On the cross, it's a cross. The Romans had a pole. That's it. That's how you were hung. Hanged. Should be hung. Let's change it to hung. People can now be hung. They aren't hanged anymore. And so they're symbolically telling you of the date of the solar eclipses, the first and the last solar eclipses. 21st of August 2017, 8 April 2024. They cross over America and southern Illinois. That's where Zion is. This means village in Egyptian. And I did the other video where I pointed out that in Paleo Hebrew, the Tet, not the Tau, although the Tet is likewise, it's the village, but the Tet has the circle with it. And so it's the Zion symbol, whereas the Tau is the location of Zion, where Zion is the location also. So Tau is like insignificant compared to Tet. But they put it at the end letter for Tau to help us understand that it's the latter days. The last, Omega. Even though Omega is the horizon symbol, and it can be for the rising sun or the setting sun, depending on how you use it in context. For Joseph Smith, it's the sunstone rising sun. For the latter-day Christ, it's the setting sun of the latter days, Omega, which was made the last letter in the Koine Greek. In Paleo Greek, it was not the last letter, and it was not Omega. It was the universal symbol of the sun with the dot in the middle, which is the Egyptian version. And so, yes, the Paleo Greeks made it very clear that the alphabet characters were derived from the Egyptian characters. If anybody was paying attention, and nobody was, so I then walked into the field, made the discovery of Paleo Hebrew in 6 months. So, yeah, the burial is similar to birth, where a man plants his seed in a woman in her womb, which is the earth soil. Just like agronomy, seed planted into the earth, and then produces the fruit. The baby is the fruit that parts the waters and comes through on dry land. If you recognize that from the Exodus account or the creation account, it's all the same concept. And so this concept of burial of your father is not being understood by the disciples, because it's all about him there. He's with them now. The whole concept of the father burying his seed in the soil of woman is already given birth to him. And even though this is a symbol thing, it's not a real story, literal history, that's what it's referring to here. And that's what burial corresponds to. And then with the resurrection, that's the birth. born again. How can a man be born out of his mother's womb again? It's because it's a symbol. The heart. Change your mind. And then the ascension is for coronation. The sign in the heavens, 8 April 2024, the coronation day. He ascends to the throne on earth, as is in heaven. The signs in the heavens in the likeness of things on the earth. Joseph Smith translation, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. Okay? So does that help you understand? He's not being mean. You can't go to your father's funeral. No, he's here. He's born. That's what he's talking about. Okay, so now they enter the ship. Peace be still, peace be still. That's where that hymn comes from. It's Matthew 8:23. Great tempest in the sea. The ship was covered with the waves. There are certain times when the Mediterranean is wild and ferocious. And so sailors know not to go in the waters during those times. Nonetheless, Jesus can do it. He can do miracles. And so he's sleeping. He's not concerned. He doesn't get seasick. He's born in Pisces. And disciples come to him saying, "We're scared. We're snowflakes. And oh, ye of little faith." And so, fine, we'll calm the sea. Oh, even the sea obeys him. Yeah. They don't have, this isn't the part where the walking on water occurs, is it? Nope. It's easy to walk on water. Anybody can do it with the right shoes. And if you are unfamiliar with the shoes that you need to wear, I refer you to Drew Barrymore's Ever After. Da Vinci. He invented shoes that can walk on water. And I've walked on water. I've been water skiing. I walked on water. It's easy, sort of. Difficult to get up, but once you're up, it's easy. Alright, and then the country of the Gergesenes. And two Mormons are possessed with devils. Change your mind. And it's coming out of the tombs. So it's the concept of being born again that is being referred to here. So change your mind, be born again. And what have we to do with thee, Jesus, Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? Did you catch that? Before the latter days. That's what he's referring to here. This is the ministry period of 2017 to 8 April 2024. Are you coming to torment us, Travis, before the time? You have to replace Jesus with the Mormon of the future. And you can liken the scriptures unto yourselves. You are the men possessed by devils. That's how you're supposed to do it, guys. As much as I get to joke about it, you, because the truth is hard, are offended. And you're angry with me. But this is how you're supposed to liken the scriptures unto yourselves. You're the bad guys in the story. You chose to be the bad guys. And there was a good way off from them and herd of swine. Yeah, the 19th dynasty Pharaoh's tombs. Again, born again from the tomb, from the womb. So the 19th dynasty pharaohs purposely called themselves after the god of usurping the throne, Set, who murdered his brother Osiris and usurped the throne. And it was Horus who then came to restore the throne of his father. Oasis. And so, even though the 18th dynasty was Horus restoring the throne from the previous Set dynasty of the Hyksos, who took the god Set as their deity because they had usurped it from the previous Egyptian dynasty. So they follow the pattern of the original story that all Egypt is based upon. And so, yeah, the 19th dynasty had conquered Horus. And thus, the prophecies for the restoration of the 18th dynasty of David Moses for the latter days, to restore the 18th dynasty of Amen. Because not only was it the David Moses pharaohs, it was also the Amenhotep pharaohs. Emmanuel, Amen. And Amen was the god of the David Moseses, as only Akhenaten changed it to the Aten, did away with the high priesthood. And I refer you to section 84, where Moses leaves their presence and takes the priesthood with him. Yeah, that's what Akhenaten did. He removed himself from the people's presence and did away with the Amen priesthood. Replaced it with the Aten priesthood. Joseph Smith knew. But here in the 19th dynasty tombs, they have the picture of Pharaoh sitting on his throne. And it depends on which pharaonic tomb you're referring to as to which pharaoh it is that's sitting on the throne of the 19th dynasty Seti pharaohs and Ramsey pharaohs. Ra Moses. And people are marching up the stairs to the throne for their judgment, for the afterlife. And those who would pass get to become like Pharaoh. Those who fail, and this is what's being portrayed, everybody fails, are sent back to the netherworld, the underworld, spirit prison, depending on how you understand it, on a bark, a ship of the Egyptians, and are sent back as swine. And so the underworld is perceived as the field of reeds, with the river of the Reed Sea that is parted, and you come through on dry land. And so these people failed their judgment and have to go back to the spirit world to wait a future judgment, because they are not worthy of the celestial kingdom, the glory of the sun. And so they're portrayed as swine, going back into the rivers of the underworld. And so here you see it in Matthew 8. With sort of 28, but it's really not until 30. There was a good way off from them, and herd of many swine. And so the devil's being cast out of the two men. Say, please allow us to go into the swine. Okay, as you wish. So these men fail their judgment. They are not changing their mind. They are refusing to go with the latter-day man like Moses, the Mormon, in the Exodus to build Zion in 2020, and then again the second harvest in 2022. They did not change their mind. And so they are swine, getting sent back to the Great Salt Lake of Sodom to be utterly destroyed. So there's the symbol interpretation with where they got the information from on the 19th dynasty tombs of the pharaohs of that dynasty. Alright, then we had Mark, was it? Mark 2 through 4. Okay, so Jesus forgives sins. No, he doesn't. Heals a paralytic, eats with publicans and sinners, and announces he is the Lord of the Sabbath. So, yeah, we get to add more information on this one for you. So, 2:4. Okay, so again with the healing, change your mind. The therapeute also is understood by this. As in the Roman period time, there were congregations scattered around the Middle East, and they originated with the Jews from the Assyrian order of the Egyptians, with the shrines at the various places. And they had 12 disciples and a teacher. He was a healer, thus therapeute, therapy. And so it was understood in the context of spreading the word to heal. And though, yes, they could have had knowledge of herbs to heal the human body, or cranberries to heal the bowels. But the main concept to understand here is change your mind, and you are healed from the darkness and blindness that comes from misinformation and lies. And so, yeah, this is a prophecy about the eating with publicans and sinners. He hangs out with the commoners. He doesn't hang out with the rich elites. In Ezekiel chapter 17 is the prophecy of the latter-day Christ, where he's going to be born and where he moves in his childhood. And one of those is in Michigan with the Great Lakes, the many waters. And he's likened unto a willow tree. The willow tree, the branches hang down, submissive, meek, humble, not exalting himself as his birthright, as Oakland with the oak trees and the redwood trees. And so he's born of royalty, but he is a commoner. He does not ascend to government office. He does not ascend to religious office. He is meek and lowly, just like the average Mormon. And so that's what that is prophesying about. So take your bed, go your way. The son of Alphaeus Cutler. Alright. Yeah, and so, yeah, he's Alright, let's see. All have no need of physician, but they that are sick. Yeah, I've never understood that. Everybody's trying to force me to have medical insurance and see a medical doctor on a regular basis. Why? Shouldn't I just eat right and exercise and only go to the doctor if I'm sick, which he then only offers remedies for symptom management rather than curing me. And the cure is eat right and exercise, preventative medicine. But, Alright. So here we're talking about fasting, and I see a Latter-day reference here. Bridegroom. Okay, the disciples of John and of the Pharisees used to fast, and they came and said unto Jesus, Why do the disciples of John and the Pharisees fast, but thy disciples fast not? Okay, so here's an understanding of why we fast. Jesus said unto them, Can the children of the bride chamber fast, while the bridegroom is with them? See what he's saying there? The purpose of fasting is for becoming inspired to become like Jesus, the Christ, to be Christ-like. It is for receiving revelation, and you have to replicate the revelation in the flesh. You can't just have faith without works. And so, in the latter days, Mormons will be with their Christ. They are the bride, as Jesus is the bridegroom. Yeah, the bridegroom, not the bride, of the church, which is the bride. So Mormons are the bride for their Christ, and they're held in bondage by the great and abominable church, who has usurped them and has forced them to be his bride. And they need to be rescued out of the great and abominable church. And so that's where this is all playing a part. The 10 virgins are waiting for the bridegroom to come. And no, they're not polygamous wives, as Brigham Young altered section 132 to be from Joseph when it was him that wrote it. But again, that's another symbolism of the latter days. Alright. When the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, then shall they fast. So, yeah, it's when he leaves in the Exodus for Zion, and they are the foolish virgins left behind. Then they need to fast. Become low unto the dust. No man also seweth a piece of new cloth on an old garment. As in the wine in old wineskins. Yeah. It's because it makes it worse. You got to use new stuff. It doesn't work to try to patch things up to keep using the old stuff with new stuff, because it just makes it worse. So likewise, you can't have the Christ try to fix the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to turn it back into Joseph's church. You have to start all over again to restore Joseph's church. You can't work within to make the change. You have to cut off the old church, get rid of it, start all over again. Thus, the bridegroom is being used in the context here. The latter days. Alright, I went through the cornfields on the Sabbath day, and they're plucking the ears of corn. According to the law of Moses, the poor can do that. It's technically supposed to be the stuff that falls to the ground. But, yeah, that is interesting. But the Pharisees are more concerned not with their theft of the persons whose cornfield it is, but about how they're working on the Sabbath. The Sabbath comes from the Babylonians, because the Babylonians understood the number 7 to be a bad luck number. And as a bad luck number, they created a 7-day calendar week, in which the 7th day was then ordered by their kings to be a day of no work. Rest. Do not labor on the Sabbath. The 7th day. And so in Semitic Hebrew, 7 and Sabbath are exactly the same. The difference is that Sabbath has that TH, that's the tau at the end, for the latter days. And then I did the video not too long ago. Is it the water symbol or is it Osiris's symbol? But, well, regardless. The number 7, we won't go over it. I'd have to spend more time. We're already at 51 minutes. I could go to 2 hours on this. This is a lesson video. But the 7, Saboa, has the universal symbol of the sun at the end of it. And as such, it makes the Christ the Lord of the Sabbath. The 7th, the latter days, X marks the spot in southern Illinois on the United States of America. Latter days. Why he's able to say, I'm the Lord of the Sabbath, is that they allowed the Babylonian assimilation to distract them from the true meaning of the Sabbath day and why it's supposed to be worshipped. And with the Babylonian encroachment and captivity, the Jews had lost that understanding. Therefore, the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. Okay. Alright, so he's now in a synagogue. And the synagogue is where the Torah is read. And a man has a withered hand. So physical disabilities. And can he heal him on the Sabbath day? Oh no. They might accuse him. They're watching. Oh, do it. We're going to accuse you. He's working on the Sabbath. Get him. Stone him. Is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath? Or to do evil on the Sabbath? And so he shut them up. But they were angry. Mormons were angry with the Christ who was doing good on the Sabbath. How dare you? You're supposed to go to church. No. Mormons went forth, straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. So the Mormons are working with a secret band of Gadianton to figure out how to destroy their latter-day Christ. And Jesus withdrew and moved to another part of the valley. And from Jerusalem and from Idumea, that has to do with Esau. In case you didn't know, Esau lost his birthright and blessing and then married the name of the future Christ's mother's name, Judith. That was the prophecy for that. He lost the birthright and blessing, but then gets the name of the mother. in the process with the wife he marries. And then names his son Emmanuel in a different version. I think it was the raw version. Heal many, which change your mind. Unclean spirits, change your mind. They saw him, they fell down before him and cried, saying, Thou art Son of God. They changed their mind. So he goes up on the top of the mountains, Utah. Called unto him whom he would. They came unto him, and he ordained 12. So apparently he's supposed to establish his church in Utah before. But unfortunately, there's not 12 in Utah to do this with, is there, Mormons? Because you're not changing your mind. You're not looking for him. You have no idea that you're supposed to be looking for him because you're stuck on Jesus, who's blinded you. And again, he's not supposed to join the Mormon church or rise up in the Mormon church to then overthrow it. He's got a separate new wineskin, new cloth to form a whole new 12 to be missionaries. And so, yeah, we need a James, and we need a Mark. Are there a James and a Mark out there? A Jacob and a Mark? You can be a part of the 12. And an Andrew and a Philip and a Bartholomew and a Matthew and a Thomas and a Thaddeus and a Simeon. The Canaanite, which is interesting. Simon Peter, Canaanite. And then Judas, which again is the mother's name in the feminine form, Judith, who would betray him, betrayed by his mother, not just by the Mormons of Judah, who would betray him. And so much as eat bread. So they're wanting to lay hold on him and lock him up and incarcerate him. And the scribes came down from Jerusalem, those who memorize, who have no clue what they're talking about, and saying he's of the devil. Right? Isn't that what Mormons do? You do it to me, you say I'm of the devil. You're not listening to me, and so you justify it by accusing me falsely of being of the devil, an apostate, a korahor. Right? That's how you can justify sticking to your false beliefs of Jesus, the church being true, Nelson being a living true prophet. How can Satan cast out Satan? Dumbasses. So yeah, if the kingdom is divided, how is it able to stand? It's going to fall. Great and abominable church shall fall. So if Satan rises up against himself, and he be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. He divides in order to conquer, and that causes a fall. So, yeah, blasphemy against the Holy Ghost. So it's one thing for the Mormon Christ to come out and tell Mormons he's their Christ. And if Mormons are just refusing to accept that and believe it, that's one level of disbelief. But for them to know that the prophecies of a mortal Christ from the Mormon church one mighty and strong, man like Moses, man-child. If they know that such a person is coming, and then when he's there, then they deny him, that can't be forgiven. Because they knew who to look for. He came, and they denied him, knowing who to look for. So it's not like the regular Mormons who believe in Jesus is coming, and so when anybody else claims to be the Messiah, they're like, no, you're a false prophet. You're a false Christ. Get away from me, Korahor. It's a different level of evil. You gotta change your mind, so you no longer have an unclean spirit. There came his brother and his mother. Who is my mother? Who is my brethren? He looked around about them, which sat around about him, and said, Behold, my mother and my brethren. Whosoever shall do the will of God, the same as my brother and my sister and my mother. So there's another prophecy for you. This Mormon's family, mother and siblings, will betray him. Judith. And then 4. And then I think we have Luke 7. After this. And so if it's Sabbath, because I chose not to do it because of the time constraints, if it's Osiris symbol for Sabbath, and I can look it up. Look up Blue Letter Bible. Go to Genesis chapter 2. I should be able to figure it out. Then it has to do with the mortal offspring of Osiris, who is Lord of Sabbath. Whereas the water symbol would not make as much sense. But we'll check. Genesis 2. Why are you going slow? I've got fast speed internet now. Come on. Okay, on the 7th day, chapter 2. Go away. Rested should also be where we get Sabbath from, day of rest. So Genesis 2:3 for both words. Westminster Leningrad Codex. Alright. Nope, it is the water symbol. Okay. So it's kingdom of heaven. Osiris resides in heaven as the king now after his murder, and thus established the rituals of the temple for the future ascension to the throne. And then Sabbath, rest. Water, I don't have water. Okay. But yeah, you can see the two words with the endings. Alrighty. So that's what it's referring to, is the kingdom of heaven for the Sabbath, the remembrance of his death, and that the coming of the future who would replace him on earth. So even though it's a different letter, It has a slightly different meaning. Alright. So, let's see. He began to teach by the seaside, gathered unto him a great multitude, entered into a ship, sat in the sea, spake many things in parables of the latter days. Outright declarations of latter-day events, story form, symbolic of latter-day events, parables of latter-day events. Those are the methods of teaching about the latter days. And said unto them in his doctrine. Alright, there's sower to sow, and some fell by the wayside. Fowls of the air came and devoured them up. And some fell on stony ground. This, again, has to do with faith. Turning your faith into knowledge so that you can witness and testify of. If you do not properly plant your seed, whether it's by the wayside, stony ground, thorny ground, you're not going to get the proper results if you plant the seed in good ground, believing ground. That you don't have a stubborn heart, I don't want to believe this, or a thorny one, well, I sort of want to believe this other thing too. It's gonna produce very poor quality results. And it's your fault. It's not the seed's fault, the precept, the word. It's not its fault. You have to believe, and then you test it, scientifically test it. This is the science of agronomy here, which means you have to scientifically test words to find out if they're true or not. That's what it's telling you here. This is a parable. You don't just say, well, I have a spiritual witness, I now know the truth, and I've produced fruit. No, you haven't. Get out of here. I'm not believing you. So that's the parable of the seeds. Alright, the sower soweth the word. Oh, look at that. In verse 14. And there by and by the wayside the word was sown, but when they have heard it, Satan cometh and immediately taketh away the word that was sown into their hearts. So now he's given the answer to the parable. And so yes, the seed is faith in the word. And you have to plant it in good soil. So which one are you, Mormons? Do you believe in your Jewish Christ that Joseph Smith said would be a Mormon? Who is among you? Should I do God Was One of Us? That would be the theme song. Well, this is a New Testament level. We don't do theme songs. We don't do theme songs for the lessons. But yeah, think of if God was one of us. Or angels among us. It's not really talking about God. Alright. Alright, so here we get to, he said unto them, is a candle brought to be put under a bushel, or under a bed, not to be set on a candlestick. And to understand, in their apartments, if they have candlesticks or lamps with oil that you're able to then put a wick in and light and give light to the house. Now, if you want the whole room as light as possible, you need to put the candlestick and the lamp as high up as possible so that it is able to cover more area. If you have it sitting on the floor, you're not going to get as much light. And in my particular case, we would need something to shine up onto my face so that you can see me better. But such is the way it is. because the lighting is just straight down. And the light from the outside would be better, but I got the bed and boxes that are still blocking the way that need to be unpacked. And so in this particular case, you let your light so shine. And it's similar to the pattern that was given for the parable of the soils. You need to have it in good soil. So light needs to be available and shown and seen to give the best results. So the kingdom of God, latter-day kingdom in Zion, as if a man should cast seed into the ground, and should sleep and rise the next day, and the seed should spring up and grow, he knoweth not how. It just does. It's magic. Do you believe in magic, magic, magic? And then once the fruit comes, then you harvest. And so you miss the Exoduses, 2020 and 2022. But that's the whole concept, is that this ministry part is to try to get Mormons to change their mind. And when you have YouTube employee who purposely is hiding the message of their Christ, because he's supposed to be out there saying, hey guys, it's me, come follow me, the Savior said, then let us in his footsteps tread. All this alone can we be one, if we deny our only Christ. Some creative differences. So yeah, it's supposed to be a harvest, which is the Exodus. But there was no Exodus, because there were nobody to harvest. Mormons did not change their mind. They were stuck on Jesus. And yeah, the YouTube employee helped. He is the evil one. And he laughs and thinks it's funny, because he doesn't believe. He thinks that the church is true and that Jesus is coming instead. Really? Do you really think Jesus is going to come? Mormons are just dumb. Alright, so then the grain of mustard seed, the smallest of seeds, grows into the greatest of bushes. Okay, he spoke the parables as they were able to hear it, because Mormons are understanding on different levels. He can't come right out and be plain and simple for you, because you will not believe. You're stuck on Jesus, and Jesus isn't real, but you're stuck on Jesus, who's not real, created by a man named Constantine, a Roman emperor, and you're stuck on him because the prophets tell you to be stuck on him. Why would the prophets lie to you, even though they've replaced Joseph and lied about Joseph? Why would they lie to you? Yes, they have already lied about Joseph. Do you not think they'd be lying about the Christ? And get into a ship, and the waves beat against the ship. We're going to perish. So again, this is the same thing. So that's repeated. Do we do 5? Because it's 4 and 5, isn't it? Nope, 2 through 4. So we're done with Mark. So now we go to Luke 7. Okay, here's the centurion servant again. Raises from the death the son of the widow of Nain. And John the Baptist extolled as more than a prophet. Yeah. The dove. I I did the videos where Joseph Smith is the forerunner to the Latter-day Christ, as Joseph is the cornerstone that Mormons rejected, and then the true Christ becomes their capstone of the finished Zion mountain of the Lord. And so, yeah, that's part of it. But then the John the Baptist vision in the Joseph Smith Visions account gives us an astronomical date as well for the latter days in the forerunner sign in the heavens of the Tetrad in 2014-2015. And then after that came the sign of John the Baptist from Joseph Smith's Revelation. So I've done that video for you already. A woman anoints Christ's feet, and he forgives her sins, you whore. But then you have to understand the custom of washing of feet and feeding and giving a place to sleep. But she's a woman. She's had children. She's not a virgin. City called Nain. They don't have it linked. So I wonder if... Let's see if Christians have an idea of where it is. Village in Israel. Nain is how it's spelled on the Bible map. Borat. Dovrat. Okay, so it's in Upper Israel in Nazareth. Yeah, it's just southeast of Nazareth. Okay, so that needs to be understood because the prophecies claim it's from Nazareth, where his nativity is. And Nun is similar. Jesus, the son of Nun. Joshua, the son of Nun. Similar. They're different vowel in the middle, but okay. 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 And so, yeah, a city called Nain, where near his nativity, and many of his disciples went with him, and much people. And they came nigh unto the gate of the city. Behold, there was a dead man carried out. Okay. Remember what I've previously talked about? The only son of his mother. She was a widow. So again, you're seeing the whole concept of the Christ with his birth of the latter days Zion, the millennial Zion, with the death of the great and abominable church to restore Joseph's church. The death of the great and abominable, the rebirth of Joseph Smith's church, completely whole, not trying to merge the two churches together, because it'll collapse and fail. Completely new church. And it's of the Son who is to restore it. And so here it is at his nativity, where it's said to have been his place of birth. And if you're unfamiliar with St. Patrick's Day as his birth date, it's the death date of St. Patrick. And it's his, the Christ's ancestors, the British Druids of England, Britain, who developed the prophecy using St. Patrick. They're the ones who made his future descendants' birth date the death date of St. Patrick. This is why. Because the end of the Great and Abominable Church, 8 April 2024, is the coronation of the new church with the Christ. The total solar eclipse, which represents death of the kingdom or the king, and thus the start of the new religion in the new kingdom. And so the chasing out serpents from Ireland, no, they were already gone. They purposely put that in there because Revelation talks about him battling serpents and dragons and other lizard creatures from outer space. And does it stand for victory or visitors? That was awesome as a kid watching that series. And then the reboot was even awesomer, but then they cut it off. And so then you have 17th of March, which I've already told you about, is his birth date, which is also involved with the death date. And then I've told you about, in the previous video I did today, of Thomas B. Marsh, excommunicated wrongfully on the 17th of March by Brigham Young. Thus, Brigham Young will be replaced, according to the Deuteronomic law in chapter 19, starting in verse 16, was it? That to restore the damage that Brigham Young caused, the Christ of Mormons will be born on the 17th of March to restore the Church of Joseph Smith. And he is to be the first president of the church, not Brigham Young's successors of the presidency of the 12. That was the false accusations of Brigham Young that resulted in what we have now today. And so according to the law of Moses, Brigham Young has to be overthrown in like manner, using the 17th of March for the date of the birth of the Christ to replace them. And then women who give birth to the child, Judith is the name of his mother, is given the priesthood and priesthood office on the 17th of March, 1842. Joseph Smith knew all this and understood it. And so then also Christmas, 25th of December, is in the Julian calendar. You got to convert it into the Gregorian calendar, 17th of March. And then the 1970 is for the Noah lands on the ark, 7th month, which is 1970, which is a leap year, so it's Adar the 2nd. Thus, 17th of March is the 7th month of the Jewish months because of the leap year, the addition of a month. And so, yes, the flood story is a prophecy of the latter days, as Matthew 24 tells us, that I said in the other video. So there's numerous testimonies of March 17th for this. And so it's in Oakland, according to Ezekiel 17's parable. Right? Or is that Sodom? One of them is the parable of him, and then the other says that Sodom fell because they neglected the poor. So the Utah headquarters church will fall because they neglect the poor. And I keep doing those videos for you. The church never gives to the poor. They give to other charities, other corporations. They're a charity. They're supposed to give to the poor. They don't. They give to other charities. They refuse to give to the poor. And those other charities, likewise, refuse to give to the poor for the most part. Some do, like the Utah Food Bank gives to the poor. But others do not. They collect it, like the shelter. The shelter doesn't give to the poor. They're rounding them all up to be executed and to get sick and die. Did you watch the video where I told you I witnessed the guy dead in the morning? And, you know, he's now cremated. Nobody will ever know him other than what I talked about on my videos. So, so that's what you need to be thinking of when you're thinking of the place near his nativity and the dead man being carried out and then being raised from the dead. That's what you're supposed to be thinking of. That a great prophet is risen among us. He hath visited his people. He's here among the Mormons. And they refuse to recognize and acknowledge him. Art thou he that should come? Or look we for another? Should we look for the reincarnated Joseph Smith? No! John the Baptist has sent us unto thee. Yeah, Joseph Smith sent you to me if you'd actually read what he said. You're not hearkening. And then change your mind, evil spirits. Go your way and tell John. Tell Joseph Smith what you've seen and heard. So yeah, he's a man like Joseph Smith too. In 2 Nephi chapter 3, yeah, they're all the same. They're all prophets who are the Christs. All right. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, as much more than a prophet. Because you read 2 Nephi chapter 3, and those who are aware know that Joseph Smith Sr. is the author of that. Joseph Smith Sr. is the patriarch of the Latter-day Prophets of the church. The Christ, the founding Christ, his son Joseph Jr., and then his future Christ, the capstone Christ, will come through his son Hiram. So that's how that's going to be done. Not being baptized. So yeah, the Mormon Pharisees and the Mormon lawyers rejected the council and refused to be baptized in the new church. And again, baptism is born again, the ritual, similar to the sacrament, the Egyptians, death of Osiris, the sun being born out of the waters, parting the sea and coming through on dry land, and then partaking of the flesh and blood of Osiris who had died, and thus give birth to the future successor Christ as a mortal man, all symbolic of all baptism and sacrament of bread and water, which is blood red wine. That's why. But you gotta make it white supremacy. Water. But the water was turned to wine by Moses, and Jesus did it, and that's what it means. Son of Man has come eating and drinking. He's a glutton and a winebibber, friend of publicans and sinners, friend of the IRS. Can't get the IRS to get the church in trouble, can he? Neither can the whistleblower. But he's closer than... He got the SEC to punish the church, which automatically renders the church false. In case you hadn't caught on, Mormons are upset with me for it. They want to be criminal just like the church. That's what it means when Mormons are upset with me by pointing out that the church is false because the SEC got them in trouble. It's the church that got themselves in trouble. Why are you mad at me? A woman in a city, she's a sinner. So she's had babies, but she's a sinner. She knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisees' house. What is he doing in a Pharisee's house? Brought an alabaster box of ointment. Well, and so then she goes and wipes his feet. Apparently the Pharisee didn't do it. Because that's what happens. That's the custom of their day when the book is being written. Is that when a guest comes, you wash his feet. He'd been walking to get to you. And so you wash his feet. And that's why it's symbolic when you enter into the Holy of Holies or the temple to take off the shoes from your feet and put on the other new shoes that are clean. To separate yourself from the world. And so this is the washing of the feet part here. But then you're also supposed to feed him, and apparently the Pharisee is feeding him because he's sat at meat in the Pharisee's house. So apparently he didn't get his feet washed by the Pharisee. But this is what the woman is doing, is she's just doing the custom for hospitality. But she's a sinner as a woman who's had babies. And the Pharisee's upset with her. This is my house. What are you doing? This man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is, and that toucheth him, for she is a sinner. So he's trying to accuse Jesus here, taking advantage of the situation. And so he says unto him, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. A certain creditor, he won't come out and directly condemn him. He has to use parable to get it through. A certain creditor has two debtors. The one owed 500 pence and the other 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Tell me, therefore, which of them will love him most? Obviously the one that had greater debt. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, Seest thou this woman? I entered into your house. Thou gavest me no water for my feet. That's the custom. He didn't follow the custom. But she, whose house it is not, came and washed his feet with tears and wiped them with the hairs of her head. And she had alabaster thing of ointment. Let's not forget that, Jesus. Thou gavest me no kiss, but the woman, oh yeah, she's a whore. This woman, since the time I came in, hath not ceased to kiss my feet. I'm still needing to repair my toenails from the damage that reoccurred. I had almost gotten them completely healed on my own at the other apartment, and then 9 months. So frustrating. Alright, and so, yeah, I knew what I was talking about, and I hadn't even gotten to the part yet. And so, yeah. Now see what he's trying to say here. If only there were a woman who's not a Mormon who would wash my feet. Alright, that's it. Change your mind. Alrighty.